What you're about to hear will shake everything you thought you knew about ancient prophecy and modern faith. An Israeli archaeologist was crushed to death 15 feet underground while excavating the biblical pool of Siloam, the same pool where Jesus healed the blind man 2,000 years ago. But what happened during his 17 minutes of clinical death will leave you speechless. He discovered ancient Hebrew words carved into a hidden chamber, words that had been waiting nearly 3 millennia for someone to find them. But that's not even the most incredible part. While his body lay lifeless under tons of ancient stone, he stood face to face with Jesus Christ himself, who revealed the terrifying truth about what those ancient words really mean and why they're being uncovered right now in our generation. This isn't just another near-death experience. This is a prophetic encounter that connects biblical archaeology, ancient prophecy, and the end times in ways that will completely transform how you see the world around you. Here is his story. My name is David Avram Cohen. I'm 34 years old, and on the afternoon of the 17th of March, I died 15 feet underground in the ancient pool of Siloam. I was born in Tel Aviv, but I'd been working archaeology digs around Jerusalem for 8 years. My wife Miriam always said I loved old stones more than I loved her, but that wasn't true. I just felt something pulling me to these places, like they had stories waiting to be told. I had 2 little girls, ages 6 and 4, and every night they'd ask me what treasures I found that day. Most days it was just pottery shards and dirt, but I kept digging anyway. That morning started like any other. Our team had been excavating the pool of Siloam for 3 months. You know, the same pool where Jesus healed the blind man. We'd found incredible things already, coins from the 1st century, pieces of ancient steps. But there was this one section that kept calling to me. The ground-penetrating radar showed something deep down, something the other archaeologists said wasn't worth the time. But I couldn't let it go. I was down in the excavation pit alone. The rest of the crew had gone up for lunch, but I wanted to dig just a little more. The Jerusalem sun was beating down, but down there it was cool and quiet. I remember the sound of my pickaxe hitting the limestone. Then I saw it, a small opening in the ancient wall. My heart started racing. This could be it. This could be the discovery that changed everything. I squeezed through the opening with my headlamp. The space was tiny, maybe 4 feet high. I had to crawl. The air smelled like centuries of dust and something else I couldn't name. As I moved forward, my light caught something carved into the wall. Hebrew letters. Old Hebrew. Older than anything we'd found. I was trying to make out the words when I heard the rumble. The ground above me started shaking. I looked up just as tons of ancient stone came crashing down. The last thing I remember was thinking about Miriam and the girls. Then everything went black. But the strange thing was, the darkness only lasted a second. Suddenly, I wasn't trapped anymore. I was standing up, but not in the cave. I was in this place that looked like the pool of Siloam, but different, brighter. The water was crystal clear and the stones looked new, like they'd just been carved. I looked down at my hands. They were clean. No dirt under my fingernails for the first time in months. Then I heard my name. David. I turned around, and that's when I saw him. Not the way I'd imagined from all those Sunday school lessons as a kid before I stopped believing. This wasn't some pale European face from a painting. His skin was olive like mine, his hair dark and wavy, but his eyes, they were like looking into deep water with sunlight dancing on the surface. When he looked at me, I felt like every wall I'd ever built around my heart just melted. Like ice cubes in warm tea, the air around him seemed to shimmer. Not with heat, but with something alive, something that made my chest tight with a feeling I'd never experienced. It was like standing at the edge of the ocean for the first time as a child. That mix of wonder and fear that makes you want to run toward it and away from it at the same time. Jesus, I whispered. He smiled, and when he did, I heard music. Not from anywhere specific, but like the stones themselves were singing. Hello, David. You've been looking for truth in old stones, but the truth was looking for you. I didn't know what to say. My mouth felt dry. I think I'm dead. Your body is dying, yes, but you, the real you, "You're more alive right now than you've ever been." He started walking toward the pool and I followed him. With each step, I felt lighter. The way I'd carried for years, the doubt, the anger at God for taking my father when I was 12, the fear that nothing I did mattered, all of it was lifting off my shoulders like dust being shaken from an old blanket. "You want to know what you found down there?" he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. He knelt by the water and touched the surface with his finger. Ripples spread out in perfect circles, and in each ripple I started seeing things, pictures moving like a film. "This pool," he said, "has always been about sight, about people seeing clearly for the first time. In the water, I saw the blind man, the one from the Bible story I'd heard as a kid. But I wasn't just watching it, I was there. I could smell the mud Jesus made with his spit, could hear the man's breathing as Jesus put it on his eyes. I watched him walk down to this very pool to wash it off, and when he came up from the water, when he opened his eyes for the first time in his life, I felt what he felt. That explosion of light and color and wonder. But that was just the beginning," Jesus said. "What you found carved in that wall, those words have been waiting 800 years for someone to read them." The water shifted, and I saw myself back in the cave, my headlamp shining on those Hebrew letters. But now I could read them clearly. "He flows the water that will heal the nations. He or the king will return to his people." Isaiah wrote those words, Jesus said. Not the Isaiah everyone knows about. A different Isaiah, a stonecutter who worked on this pool during King Hezekiah's time. He carved them there because I told him to, because I knew that one day in the last days someone would find them. I felt my knees getting weak the last days. He stood up and looked at me with such tenderness it made my chest ache. "David, your people have been scattered and brought home again, just like I promised. Jerusalem is in Jewish hands again, just like I promised. The fig tree is blooming. Israel is alive again. And now these words are being uncovered." The water showed me more visions. I saw crowds of people from every nation coming to Jerusalem. I saw them washing in pools of water that somehow connected to this ancient pool. I saw people who had been blind, not just physically blind, but spiritually blind, opening their eyes and seeing truth for the first time. "But David," his voice got quieter, more urgent, "what you found isn't just about the future, it's about now. Right now there are people who think they know me, but they've never really seen me. They've been looking at pictures of me painted by people who never knew me, listening to words about me spoken by people who never walked with me. They're blind and they don't even know it. I saw churches full of people singing about Jesus, but somehow missing Jesus. I saw people arguing about doctrine while completely missing the heart that was breaking for them. I saw Jewish people like myself who had been hurt by Christians and couldn't see past the hurt to see the love. The water in this pool, it's not magical, David. It never was. The healing power was never in the water. It was in the obedience, in the faith to wash when I said wash, to believe when I said believe. The blind man wasn't healed by the pool. He was healed because he trusted me enough to do what I asked, even when it didn't make sense. Tears were running down my face now. But why me? I stopped believing in you years ago. I'm not even a Christian." He reached out and touched my cheek, wiping away a tear. His hand was warm and rough like a carpenter's hand. "David, you never stopped believing. You just stopped believing in the version of me that people tried to sell you. But you kept digging, kept looking, kept asking questions. That's faith too." He showed me more in the water. I saw myself as a little boy asking my rabbi why God let bad things happen to good people. I saw myself at my father's funeral, angry at a God who seemed distant and cruel. I saw myself choosing archaeology because I wanted to find proof that the old stories were true. "You've been looking for me in stones and artifacts," he said. "But I've been looking for you in every question you asked, every doubt you wrestled with, every time you chose to keep searching instead of giving up. Even when you thought you'd lost your faith, you never lost your hunger for truth, and I am the truth." The visions changed and I saw what would happen when I went back. I saw myself telling people about what I'd found in that cave, but it wasn't just about the carved words. It was about him. I saw Jewish people who had written off Christianity as a Gentile religion, suddenly realizing that Jesus was their Messiah, their Jewish king. I saw Christians who had never understood their Jewish roots suddenly seeing the depth of their inheritance. But the most important thing he said is what you'll tell them about seeing clearly. He gestured toward the pool, and the water became like a mirror. In it, I saw my reflection, but not the way I usually looked. I looked clean, peaceful. The lines of worry around my eyes were gone. The way I carried in my shoulders was gone. I looked like I was home. Everyone who hears your story will have a choice, David. They can keep walking around blind, thinking they see clearly, or they can be humble enough to admit they need their eyes opened. They can keep fighting about religion, or they can meet me personally. The pool isn't magic, but I am still healing the blind. I wanted to stay there forever. The peace was so thick I could almost taste it like honey on my tongue. Can't I just stay here with you? His expression got sad, but also determined. Your girls need their father, Miriam needs her husband, and my people, both Jewish and Gentile, they need to hear what you found. Not just in that cave, but here, in this moment with me. But what if they don't believe me? What if they think I'm crazy? David, the blind man's neighbors didn't believe him either. They said, this can't be the same man who was born blind. Some people will always doubt, but others will know truth when they hear it, because their hearts are already hungry for it. He put his hands on my shoulders, and I felt strength flowing into me like electricity. I'm sending you back with more than just a story. I'm sending you back with sight. When you look at people now, you'll see them the way I see them, not their outside, but their hearts, their hunger, their hurt. You'll know who's ready to have their eyes opened. The pool started to fade around the edges like an old photograph left in the Sunday. No, please, I said. I don't want to go back. I know, he said, and I could hear the sadness in his voice too. But David, if you could feel this peace forever without doing anything to help others find it, would it really be peace? He was right. Even in that perfect place, my heart was already aching for Miriam, for my daughters, for all the people who were stumbling around in darkness when the light was right there, waiting for them. Well, I see you again, I asked. He smiled that smile that made the stone sing. David, once your eyes are truly opened, you see me everywhere, in every act of love, in every moment of truth, in every person who chooses faith over fear. And one day, when your work is done, you'll come home for good. The last thing I remember was his voice saying, now wash and see clearly. Then, I was gasping, coughing up dirt and water. Someone was shining a bright light in my eyes. I heard voices shouting in Hebrew and English. He's alive. How is he alive? The stones were crushing him. My whole body felt like I had been hit by a truck, but I was alive. I was in an ambulance racing through Jerusalem Street. A paramedic was checking my pulse over and over, shaking his head. Sir, you were dead for 17 minutes. No pulse, no breathing. The rescue team almost gave up. At the hospital, they ran every test they could think of. No brain damage, no internal bleeding, just some cuts and bruises. The doctor kept looking at my chart and looking at me like I was a ghost. It's impossible. He kept saying the weight of those stones should have crushed your chest, and even if you survived the initial impact without oxygen for 17 minutes. But I knew why I was okay. I knew exactly why. The next day, I went back to the dig site. The opening where I'd been trapped was completely sealed now, tons of rubble filling the space. But I didn't need to go back in there. I had already found what I was looking for. I started telling people what happened. Some thought I was crazy like he said they would, but others listened with tears in their eyes. I've been to synagogues and churches, college campuses and coffee shops, and everywhere I go, I see it happening. People's eyes opening for the first time. Just last week, a rabbi in Jerusalem told me he'd been searching for the Messiah, his whole life without realizing the Messiah had been searching for him. A pastor in Tel Aviv said he'd been preaching about Jesus for 20 years, but had never actually met him until he heard my story. But here's what I want you to know, whoever you are watching this. Jesus wasn't just speaking to me in that place, he was speaking to you too. You might be Jewish like me, wondering if Jesus could really be the Messiah your people have waited for. You might be Christian, wondering if the Jesus you've heard about in church is the real Jesus. You might not believe in God at all. But right now, in this moment, He's offering to open your eyes the same way He opened mine. You don't have to almost die to meet Him. You don't have to have all your questions answered first. You don't have to clean up your life or figure everything out. You just have to be honest about what you can't see clearly. You just have to be willing to wash when He says wash, to trust when He says trust, even if it doesn't make perfect sense yet. That carved message I found in the cave here flows the water that will heal the nations. Here the King will return to His people. It's not just about some future day, it's about today, right now. The King is returning to anyone who's ready to see Him clearly. The pool of Siloam is still there in Jerusalem, still flowing with water. But the real healing doesn't happen in ancient pools. It happens in the quiet moment when you stop pretending you can see clearly on your own and ask the one who gives sight to open your eyes. I'm David Avram Cohen. I died looking for truth in old stones. But I came back to life when truth found me, and He's been looking for you too.